Hello everyone, welcome to day 3. I am so pleased to see all your posts and learning how happy you are with the salad. Everybody, that's a big hit in this cleanse, so I will definitely keep that in for the coming cleanses. So this recipe seems to work really well. Today on this live is going to be a very special because I have a special guest who is joining me live for this broadcast, and I'm just going to bring him in here quickly, and then I will introduce him to you. Okay. Hey, there you are. Fantastic.
Hello.
Nice to see you. Can you all hear us well?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, you can hear me. This is actually the first time I do a shared Facebook Live, so Andrew is the first to do that with me, and I am so pleased. I see people are coming in. We are having lots of hearts and likes coming here already. Fantastic. People have been really excited about the special guest I'm bringing in. So Andrew Stewart is a very dear friend of mine. We have been friends for years. And he has for 30 years ago, he used a technique that turned his life around. And ever since, he has been so interested in everything to do with this therapy and this technique. For over 25 years, right, you have been a therapist. You're helping people with back injuries and sport injuries and so on. So he is not new in the field when it comes to that. I know he knows so much about the essential oil as well and use that as a therapeutic. But in the last couple of years, Andrew went and increased his education even further. He lives up in Scotland. I am here on the south coast of the UK. But he went and got his further education, what we are going to be talking about today, all the way to Australia. So he was flying back and forth to Australia for his education. So today he is NLP, hypnotherapy, and timeline therapy master coach. And he helps people, especially with getting rid of bad old habits. And for example, he helps people stop smoking, people with anxiety and depression. And many of his clients are dealing with weight issues. So that can be either too little weight or too much weight. And he helps them to get to their ideal weight using this amazing technique that we will be talking about here today. So, and I thought, because when I asked Andrew to do this with me, he was like, what is people mostly struggling with? And I was telling him that many of you have been with me for years and years on every cleanse. And so often people are, do so fantastic on the cleanse, and then maybe few weeks, months later, there's a birthday party, or there's, some gathering, and people, I just fell, I just, had this cake, and then I was just, felt like a failure. So I just keep taking the hole deeper and deeper and deeper ever since. And then when I promote my next cleanse, people, I'm so glad now I can get back on track. So I'm hoping Andrew will be able to help all of us not to dig this hole in between and help us to stay focused. And many of you will be having different habits that you might want to get rid of, so and improve. So he is here to help us. I remember hearing, and I learned this not too long ago, that in the first 7 years of our lives, we are programmed. In the first 7 years, we are in kind of a hypnosis stage. And Andrew, he will explain this a little bit better to you. And we are picking up and learning everything that is happening around us. What is daddy doing? I will learn that. What is mommy doing? I will learn that. What is my siblings doing? My grandpa and grandma and all the people around, kids are just, until we are 7, we're picking up everything. And that's when our beliefs are created. so we might be told off by a parent, and we are just told off in this particular incident, but we take that as a belief, and we will continue to believe that for the rest of our lives. So Andrew, can you explain this a little bit further? Welcome, and thank you so much for joining me live here today.
An absolute pleasure, Elfa. I think it's a bit like driving a car, and I always try and explain the difference between your conscious mind and your unconscious mind. Often you'll find yourself going down the motorway and you'll maybe be 20 miles away, but you've arrived at your destination. Well,
yeah.
How did you do that? You weren't consciously aware of changing the gears or indicating or the car on your right. You're aware of all of these things, but they're all unconsciously because it's programmed in, just like you said. So habits are just the same, Elfa, that the conscious awareness of things you do is only a very small percentage. A lot of what we do is actually just automatic, and that's one of the things that are laid down in those first 7 years. And it's funny because talking about grandparents, you know, my grandmother used to say to me often that "Þú getur ekki kennt gamlum hundi að sitja." And
oh, my Icelandic friends, did you get that? Oh, I love that. Oh, yeah, þú getur ekki kennt gömlum hundi að sitja. Goodness me, Andrew, well done.
So what I'm trying to say there, and she didn't say it in Icelandic, she basically said that you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Yeah. And to an extent, that refers to habits. It doesn't affect your brain because your brain can learn something new. So when we say that an 80-year-old can't change, that's not true. It's their habits that they're not necessarily consciously going to change. But what they can do is unconsciously or subconsciously change them. And we all have that ability to rewire the neurons in our brain to change patterns and habits. Elfa, that's definitely something we can do. And what I'd like to do is just talk about the power of the mind and the power of food. The mind-body connection is something that absolutely fascinates me. Fantastic. And what I'd like you to do just now is just take a few moments just to let yourself drift to maybe the Amalfi Coast, somewhere in Italy, somewhere that's beautiful, the scenery and the smells, and there you see a lemon tree.
You want us to close our eyes when we do this?
You can if you wish, or yes, it's more powerful normally. So if you imagine that you've got that tree and you've just taken off the most beautiful, ripe, perfectly golden lemon that is sort of blessed by the sun, and just run your fingers down it and take a nice smell of that lemon now, and just be aware of how fresh it smells, that lemony goodness. And then as you do, as you cut that open and just give it a little squeeze and just smell that lemon as you're aware of the colours, you're aware of it being something that glistens. And then as you just take a few drops now and just be aware of the sensation of that lemon. And you should find now, Elfa, that your saliva has probably started as you really imagine to bite into that lemon now. And you can feel the saliva at the front of your mouth and it's coating your tongue, ready just to taste that lemon. And as you bring your eyes just to awareness down, you can open your eyes. You now are aware, even though you've not got that lemon, that you're actually...
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that we're going to do in another session that we're going to record for the group to listen to, and it's where you create an anchor. And what we're going to do, we're going to use a thing called an anchor, which brings you back to this cleanse. So when you walk through the supermarket and you smell that lemon, you're instantly going to be reminded of your daily goals. And lemon in the morning, as you know, obviously does open up the brain's ability to think more clearly. It opens up the speed which the brain processes at, partly due to potassium that's in it. And that actually fires your brain up and it cleanses your system. So because that's part of the program so strongly, then I'm going to actually suggest that we use that as an anchor as well for creating good habits.
No, that's great.
Yeah, it's a great way to do it, because once you've actually got that in your mind, you're reminded of lemons everywhere. So you actually bring that lemon into your mind and you come right back into the moment. And part of that morning ritual is to get your affirmations about why and what you want to achieve. So like any goal, you have to have clear goals about what you're looking to achieve, and remind yourself daily, like a mantra, with your lemon, why you're going to do it. And you anchor yourself. You'll always remember lemons now when you've finished doing this visualization.
Oh, definitely, definitely. It's a very powerful way of, yeah, you could feel the taste and the scent and everything. It was just on the
Saliva.
Saliva. It's awful when you're alive and the struggle with saliva. You can feel it just, and it's very powerful, very powerful.
And that kind of brings us on to mindful eating. I think we had the conversation about mindful eating, and that's something that I think's vitally important.
Yeah. So how has mindful eating, I mean, if you give us a little bit, how do we eat mindfully? How do we?
So your first thing to do is listen to your body. And I was listening to you yesterday, and one of the things that you were talking about, and you mentioned the word worry a lot. Worry. People are worried about people. And that's a negative word that we use. You don't need to worry about food. Listen to your body. And mindfulness is a way of teaching your body and your mind to listen. So, for example, mindful eating is switching off your phone, not being conscious and in the moment. I see so many people that they're looking at their phone and they're eating, and that's just shoveling nutrition into your food. So when you make the connection, I normally do it with a raspberry, actually. I like using different colours as well, because eating that rainbow is something that's vitally important. But mindful eating is actually just taking a moment just to, look at the lemon. It's got a little bruise mark on that side and the shape of it, and be aware of all the little indentations of the lemon, and have a look at that lemon and think about where it's come from, its tree. You don't need to do it with every single raspberry you eat. You don't need to.
Yeah, it will take a while.
That's one technique to slow down your eating. And another thing is obviously slowing down the rate, being mindful of what you eat. Don't just shovel it in. You're not a train. You don't need to put coal in. Take time to enjoy your food, because once you make that connection with the food in your mind, just like tasting the lemon, you're preparing your body to accept that nutrition in. So when you actually see that food, your brain's producing the right chemicals in your stomach to digest it and to make it part of you in a more holistic way. So that's one key tip as well. And again, listen. Yeah, listen to your body. Don't pile your plate full of things. And if you feel full, put it in the fridge. Don't finish everything. You don't have to. We were told.
That's something I'm sure that many of you have the same experience. It's like, you need to finish your food, finish everything. You think of the hungry children in wherever, and you need to finish your food.
Well, I mean, I was brought up with a generation where we were told that there's children starving in Africa. Well, go and do something. Donate some sort of meal system to help them. You're not going to serve the takeaway in a carrier and send it over to Malawi. Just make less. So we're programmed back to those 7 years about actually finishing food on our plate. So we come away with that idea that we must finish what's on our plate. So a smaller plate, for example, will serve the same purpose, because you're going to finish what's on your plate. So serve what you need and be mindful of what you do need.
Yeah. And I because when we spoke yesterday, because I thought it was just made so much sense. I mean, how things have changed. I mean, now we have the people are looking, like you said, on the cell phones. I know many people just sit in front of the television while they are eating. We don't have that much sitting down at the table just with ourselves or with our family, where we are just thinking of the food. And you came with such a fantastic, where you talked about how our ancestors, they did not just open up the fridge and they need to,
And it comes back down to that instant society. We get an instant rush of dopamine from pressing that like or that love button, which it's a lovely thing to do. But just like instant coffee, food's instant now too. So our ancestors perhaps would forage and they would have to actually look at each individual fruit to make sure it was all right, so that they weren't being poisoned. So they were taking their time, they were being mindful of what they ate, and they only ate enough to keep them full at that time. Whereas now you go down to the supermarket or the market and you buy a tray and you come.
Yeah,
you know.
exactly. And often when you go down to the supermarket and you're hungry, oh goodness me, you know, you always, there's like loads more in the basket than.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And that's the key of finding your food that makes you feel good. So say if you've got an addiction to something like chocolate, someone that's maybe quite close to you loves chocolate, but these things are good in moderation, and it's just knowing what's good enough. And it's when you get into that loop of overeating and emotional binge eating, you need to actually change that, and actually you need to change that and find it something different. So for example, I first discovered the power of lemons.
Yeah, tell us the story.
30 years ago.
You told me an amazing story. You know, because I have lemon. You can see in my sign, in my logo, I have lemon, and I know it's amazing. But you told me, and now I know it's even more amazing. So please tell us your lemon story.
So I used to, at the time I was in a relationship which wasn't right, and I was frustrated and emotional. So I was letting my body chemistry be dictated by my emotions. And when you do this rumination and worrying about, you know, the 95% of your time spent worrying about things that are going to happen 5%. So I used to be in this cycle, and it was like a trap. But what I found is, at that time, Marks and Spencer's used to do like a freshly squeezed lemon in a carton. So I found that when I went in and actually took that and took the time to drink that, it totally changed my mood. And there are studies around the world, one from Japan, that shows that when you actually drink lemon water or lemon, your moods actually improve for 30 minutes afterwards. It actually boosts the ability of the brain to have clarity for 30 minutes. Even just from smelling essential oil of a lemon for that time changed it. So what I found then was, for me, that was a way to anchor myself into a better state. So now, even when I smell a lemon, I still remember going into the supermarket 30 years ago. And it's vital to get these small things that actually take you out of your current state, because a lot of what we do is just about a state we're in, and you know, it's like the body physiology. So when you're sitting and you're down and you're eating your food, you're going to feel down. Whereas when you're changing your emotional state, you're much more likely to release the natural chemicals that are going to actually make you feel better.
Yeah. So emotional eating, I mean, that is something we hear a lot of. And can you go dig a little bit deeper and tell us a little more, what is emotional eating?
Yeah, and probably the biggest thing that I work with, because a bit like driving that car, people aren't conscious of why they do what they do. So I had a client in the other day for just an hour. We got to the root of the problem, and it turned out that her mother, who's in her 80s, basically puts her down all the time, and she makes her feel inferior. And that's because her mother was abused. So in those first 7 years, this lady was put down by her mother, and that's created a habit loop. And what she found after that is that she felt worthless. So at that time, she would go and secretly eat 7 Danish pastries or 3 chicken breasts. So now this woman's in her 50s and her mother's in her 80s, and she's still doing the same thing. So she'll drive down to the supermarket driven by that emotion, and not stopping that emotion and letting it go away in her head. So she'll drive down to the local supermarket and she'll buy a massive amount of food and binge eat to take away that rejection from her mother in her early years. So what we've done is we've actually made her aware of that. So it's mindfulness. She's actually aware now why she does what she does. And we're working through a forgiveness protocol where she's going to understand that her mum is in a loop as well. But the only way to break the loop is with her. She can break that loop now and make that change. and now she's given up those 7 Danish pastries and drinking lemons instead.
Fantastic. Yeah, and it's it has to be, because to find the root of the problem, really, that has to be so important, to figure out why is this, what is triggering, what am I trying to heal here, what that has to be the main thing. And that can be tricky. I mean, how do people do that? I mean, how do we figure out what is a trigger?
Yeah, a lot of it is something that's going to have happened that you're often not aware of, and it's only when you do go into either hypnosis or NLP with timeline that we actually go back and highlight why you do what you do. So just like driving the car, you may change gears suddenly from, say, 3 to 5, and you've always done that, but you don't know why, and it's a habit that you maybe developed way back. So what we do is we go and find the event which initially triggered that, and then we make sure that you go through the gears, so you go back into 4 and follow a new pattern. And normally when you get some sort of self-reflection, you will be aware of it, but invariably it does take a third party to look in, or another way to do it is to dissociate yourself. And what I mean by that is, if you can imagine just now, you and I are looking at each other, we're in our body, we're associated with our thoughts. And when you actually float above and look down, so if you can imagine just now floating up in the skies of Bournemouth and looking down at yourself and what's going on round about you, you then get the reasons for what you're doing, and you see things out of your own eyes. But invariably it does make it much easier when there's a third party to actually help you through that process.
Yeah. But you do that through similar as you have done the recording for this cleansing group, which I'm so grateful for. So that's one way of getting out of those habits.
Yeah, so what, for example, that one's a trance that it starts through, it's a general relaxation, and you can teach yourself to go into as deep a trance as you wish with that. It starts off with the opening of a rose, which allows you then to look into your unconscious mind, and once your unconscious mind starts to listen through metaphors and through the 7 doors that I'll go through in that, we go through a red door and we progress right the way through to a purple door. It's tailored towards food because, as you know, I'm the same as yourself, passionate about eating a rainbow. So that's one way to actually anchor in different things into your subconscious or unconscious mind and form new habits, Elfa. So we'll pop the link up later.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's fantastic.
It's a simple 30-minute recording. So you just lie down, relax, switch off your phone. And the more you listen to that daily through the cleanse, it's going to actually embed different things. And it'll also allow your brain to tell you the answers that you know, but you don't know yet.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, that's what happens when you are in, you're relaxing and you get into this deep relaxation, and then things, come to you.
Definitely.
So, and I heard as well, I mean, there are different ways to, so you have this hypnosis. Is there any particular time of the day that you would recommend us to listen to that rather than other? Are we more open for this at some particular time, or how?
We're going to the second one. We're going to do is what I wanted to do is get a little bit. I'm doing the cleanse myself, but I wanted to find out a general feeling of people's perhaps hurdles that they feel or obstacles. I don't like to use the word worry about, because as soon as you say worry, then people go into that cycle of, I'm worried about the avocado's too big, or the avocado's the wrong colour, or, so what we'll do is we'll have one for the morning, which go with the flow, as I said yesterday, but trust your body. And it's about habits, because we've got this statistic that we say it takes 21 days to form a habit. That's actually just a number we like to put numbers in things, but research shows that it actually takes up to 2 months, perhaps 3.
I have heard that as well. The 21 days is not really very accurate. We need to do the habits for a little longer.
Yeah, and what happens is after that 21 days, people have an expectation that the habit's formed, and then they give themselves 1 day off and 2 days off, and before they know it, they've given themselves a reason to go back to that old habit of quitting. Because how many of us...
I think all of us in here have some habits that we can relate to here. It's like, you really kind of, I'm gonna, these New Year's resolutions and how they last for few weeks, and then just
yeah, I mean, it's funny because you do beat yourself up, and it's easier to give up on something than it is to persevere. And often your unconscious mind says, right, I'll give up because it's afraid. Your unconscious mind's there to protect you at all times. And when it becomes afraid, it runs. So it's a fight or flight mechanism that your mind's more likely to make your body run away from something than to stick with it and persevere with it. So yeah, back to your question, we'll have one for the morning. You can listen to this recording at any time of the day, preferably not just before you go to bed, because you've already started to go into that trance state. Chances are you're going to fall asleep. So we want it at a time where that time's just for you. And I know it's 30 minutes, but we can all make 30 minutes in the day.
And I think it's perfect. Some people are dealing with withdrawal symptoms at the moment, and it's very often part of the first days. So I think it would be perfect for just to lay down and give yourself this time to just relax and listen to the recording.
And just thank you to Ingeborg there. I might look 30, but it's good face cream. I use good nutrition.
I do so. So guys, you can ask, Andrew is so kind that you can ask him questions. So pop in your questions, and I'm gonna go through the link here and see if we have any questions already.
Just while you do, I'd like to also talk about that gut feeling, Elfa. This is a thing that I'm sure you have it in Icelandic. I'm not going to try and learn it today. What I was trying to demonstrate there was a thing called neuroplasticity, and it's the ability of your brain. So there was a girl from years ago that half her brain was removed that she wasn't aware of during an operation. So she was young enough not to make the impact consciously that she'd lost half her brain. And what happens, the other side of her brain, which controlled the other side of her body, totally repaired and operated her whole body from just one side. The power of the brain is amazing.
It's absolutely amazing. Ingeborg is loving the using a smaller plate, and I think that is a great advice actually for everybody.
And also the other one as well is the microbiome, the gut and probiotics. And I know you're a massive fan of.
Yeah.
For how many decades now? Apple cider vinegar. It's got to be.
I still have the bottle you brought me from New York, and it's my precious. It's my when I'm doing something really special, I use that apple cider vinegar. That is amazing, yeah. And I have actually had people asking me, are we not allowed to have apple cider vinegar now in our drinks? Or you are? I didn't want to have the shopping list too long. That's why I didn't put apple cider vinegar in this glass. But you can, if you have raw apple cider vinegar and pop it in a glass of water, that would be fantastic.
And the other one as well is about that. The actual gut itself, when we talk about gut feelings, a lot of our emotions come from our gut. It's that feeling of dread or that feeling of, and it's because they now look at your gut as your second brain. And a lot of those actual microflora that are actually in your intestines. So if you think about when you're not well and you've got food poisoning, it creates a chemical which makes you feel a certain way. Now, when you get good digestive tract health and you've got the right microflora there, they're producing chemicals that we really don't even know about now that are going to change the way you think. So optimal nutrition and good probiotics, prebiotics are phenomenal. It's a second brain. There are many neural connections in your intestines as there are in your brain, more in fact.
Okay. See, I have here from Ingeborg Rosa. I have a huge problem with commitment. I have discovered that I haven't even signed up for a gym because it's 4 weeks or more. Unfortunately, nobody offers 3 weeks program. 3 weeks program, which is what. Okay, and now I can't see more.
Okay.
They are not able. I'm not able to see. I'm gonna see if I can get this up in here. But we had a question here from Guðrún Lilja. Why do we need more than 21 days?
So you may not. You may need 10 days.
Okay.
Because everyone has the ability to do what they need to do. So if you have got a drive that's driving you enough, you can form a new habit should you choose. So you can form a new habit today. All I'm saying is that traditionally you can form a habit consciously, but the key that we want to do is get it like driving that car. We want it so it's a thing called automaticity, which means that you're doing it unconsciously. So you can form a habit consciously, but for it to be something that's embedded, like learning to drive a car, some people learn to drive a car in a week, some people learn to drive a car like me in a long time, because I had barriers towards failure. I conditioned myself that I was going to fail the test, so it took me longer. So back to that one, I would say that no, you can form a conscious habit instantly, but to have it embedded unconsciously, like driving the car, takes everyone a different length of time.
Okay, so now I can see the whole comment now from Ingeborg. So okay, so see, says, I have a huge problem with commitment. I have discovered that I can't even sign up for the gym course if it's 4 weeks or more. Unfortunately, nobody offers 3 weeks programs, which is what I think I could manage. Any advice?
So I would first of all ask the question, what's this 3-week thing going on about? Why, what's the barrier between the 3 and the 4 weeks? So that would be the first one. The second question is, when did Ingeborg decide it had to be a gym?
Okay, Ingeborg.
This might be quite, I'll certainly message Ingeborg and have a little chat, but
yeah.
What I would say, the solution that's out there doesn't necessarily have to be a gym. So what I'd ask Ingeborg is, when did you decide that the only way to achieve the goal you want to achieve has to be a gym? It could be taking a bike or a trampoline, a small mini one, and achieve the same results. So what I need to know is what the motivation Ingeborg has and where she wants to go and why. When she decided that, see, this is the key with NLP. We all have a time that we decided. Why have you decided, Ingeborg, that you can't commit?
Okay. Well, she says, she continues here. So if Elfa's cleanses takes more than 10 days, I struggle with embarking on them even, because the length really intimidates me.
Okay.
Just wondering if he has any advice for me, because I find it hard to commit to a long-term routine to change my habits. Yeah, so
my question there directly, if it was a session, is I would be wanting to know when Ingeborg decided that, because she's made a decision. She's telling herself that, so that's a self-talk that now Ingeborg has in her head that she can't commit. So because that's in, it's a bit like a beach ball. The more you press down a beach ball, you've only got 2 things in your, you can only cope with one thing in your mind at a time. So you can either have annoy or joy. Okay. So you can either be annoyed at the fact you can't commit or joy at the fact that you will commit. So it's about a conscious decision from going to annoy to joy. And the more time you spend, the more time the procrastination that you have, Ingeborg, to actually push down the ball to say that you've decided you can't commit. Rubbish.
Rubbish.
Not the answer you want to hear. And I don't mean that. I don't mean that. In a,
no. See what I know. I'm worried about. See what
there's. I have fun with my clients. That I'm very direct with them. You know, if I say bullshit, I'll tell them that's complete bullshit, and you know it. And that's a barrier. Something's happened at some stage, and the unconscious minds. There may be a fear that of any. It's normally down to emotions. So there's either fear, anxiety, or guilt or anger. And once we actually find the root of that cause, then she'll be committed as like.
Yeah. She comes here with a joke. Haha. Tell my friends that. Okay, brilliant. So any more questions, guys, that you might have for Andrew? I mean, you have given some great tips in here, and we will share the link to the recording. Anything else, Andrew, that you would like to add on here?
Yeah, I think it's just back to that waiting. We spoke about waiting, and you're not overweight. You've decided to take on the process of waiting. So we put body armour on, you know, like the lady I was telling you about that ate the 7 Danish pastries. She basically used that as a process to protect herself, to make, she felt worthless, so she was making herself, before her mum told her she was worthless, she made herself feel worthless and take on that weight as a protection. So don't ever think that your ideal weight isn't something that you don't need to beat yourself up about now. This cleanse isn't primarily, it's about a reset. It's not about weight loss. Your body, should it choose, will lose or gain the weight that it needs to. It's a process, so you need to have trust and be mindful in what you're going to do. Also, on the link that will pop in, I'm doing an 8-week free mindfulness course for anyone on Reset, which they can actually go through that process week by week. It does a body scan, it teaches self-meditation, it teaches self-hypnosis, and also goes through the process of being more mindful. And when you're more mindful, you don't let those things run away in your brain, and you take time to realise why you do what you do. And it could be perhaps drinking too much at night, because that's a habit. And once you break that habit and find that out, and Christian's not going to wait anymore. He's going to stop to store and buy some chocolate. I love you, Christian. You're a star.
Yeah, you it's really difficult to get him off the chocolate. But if you get him on the healthier versions, it's fine. But yeah, but that story that you told us about the lady who goes and buys the pastry and uses the weight to protect herself, it just reminds me of a recent all this Me Too awareness. There is an old school friend who wrote a post about sexual abuse that she had been going through in her teens, and it just really touched me how she said that she has put on the weight, and the weight is there to protect her, so makes her more unattractive for men, just because of this. So I thought it was just amazing that she has figured that out, because that has to be the first trigger. So I believe that has to be for so many people, that you put on the weight to protect yourself from some belief that that old belief that you have.
Without a doubt, and that's something I deal with a lot of the time, abuse in the past. But it's possible to actually change for anyone. I do strongly believe that when you have the desire and the awareness of what's caused it, and then when you actually realise that you do have that feeling of self-worth, it changes your life completely. And really simply, the difference between what I work with is more instantaneous. A lot of therapies or drugs take years and make people dependent on an instant rush from an antidepressant. And a lot of the time, the reason they do these is because the doctor's got 10 minutes. They don't have time to prescribe
the doctor doesn't have time for us to get through everything what's happening in your life.
So yeah, really just the answers are all out there, but the answers are always within as well. So it's just finding that way to unlock the answer, Elfa. But it's been an absolute pleasure. Any other chocolate questions, Christian?
It's been absolutely fantastic to have you on here, and I can just see that people are very happy. We're having lots of likes and hearts. Ingeborg says we need to meet, Andrew. So
who knows? Everyone's possible.
Definitely. Where can people find you? Because you have a Facebook. Look at all the likes and hearts. Thank you, guys. They're all for you, Andrew. Where can people find you online? Are you on social media if they want to get more info? And I saw actually when I was looking at your page that you have 8-week course that you are offering for free for now.
Yeah. So I'll pop the link on. It's iLife Choice is my Facebook page. I've just launched it actually. But I'll pop a link into the comments, and perhaps you could edit the top with the link as well, Elfa.
That would be perfect. So so people can know where they can find out more info, because I can just see of the response here that lots of people are clicking here and connecting with the things that you have been informing us with.
Brilliant. So
Thank
just
you so much.
remember your lemons. I'll always
Lemons,
remember.
oh my God, yeah, I am so impressed after you told me, you know, how powerful they are, you know, even more. So fantastic. And
Thanks, Elfa.
thank you so much for giving us your precious time today. And thank you so much for the recordings that you've done, especially for the group. Guys, I encourage you to use the recordings and help you through the cleanse. I think it's, you know, amazing. And just before I go, do not forget to drink your water. So important, so important. Those who are struggling a little bit are usually, we have figured out that they are lacking more water. So you need to aim for 3 liters of water a day. And have a fantastic day. I will see you here tomorrow live. Andrew, thank you so much again. It's been absolutely a pleasure. Thank you so much. Bye-bye, guys.
Thanks, Elfa. Bye. Bye, everyone.